Hey everybody, and welcome to another Indie Film Cafe episode for Criterion Watch. I'm your old pal the Moo Cow, aka Presenza, and I'm joined by
Jonathan Moody.
And together we are watching a movie comes all the way back from the 80s, and it is a classic. Not really what I would call a chuckle fest. It's kind of dark and dreary and depressing, but it's really, really well done. And it is 1984.
Oh, I've heard of this movie.
The adaptation of George Orwell's classic novel by Michael Radford with John Hurt and,
two John Hurt films in a row.
Yep. And, God, why does my brain work? Cheryl Cusack and,
There's another Cusack?
Yeah.
Because I only know Joan and John.
Mm-hmm. Richard Burton. God, what a dumbass. And, this is a great film. I remember when it came out. I saw it. I was blown away. And, the novel 1984 was always pretty good. I know when I first read it, it was something I had to slog through it, but I came to appreciate it more and more as I got older. I don't know if you ever had to read it. It's really, really good. But if you like dark dystopian kinds of novels that sort of paint a very, very bleak future if, politics go in a certain way for different countries, this is one you want to really watch out for. It's pretty amazing.
I heard really great things about it.
Yeah, and it came from a time like when there were other films kind of in this direction. Brazil was made around that time and a few other films, but they all had sort of more elements of fantasy and quirkiness and comedy. Not like that in this. But it's really, really well done, and I think everyone should definitely check it out.
I don't like Brazil.
And this is the Criterion version, so it's got all kinds of great stuff in here. So we will check out the film, and then we'll be back to chat it up.
Till then, everybody.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Ing sock, brother. Yeah, eek. So that's one of the more bleak movies you will
bleak
ever
movies.
See.
Wow. Yeah.
Bleak,
very depressing.
Grim, depressing, horrific. Perfect George Orwell.
No, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Foreseeing, a possible nightmare dystopian future of, a horrific mix of socialism, communism, fascism, authoritarianism. It's just a horrific, horrific warning to everyone, which is probably why it's in school, so that such a society never exists, hopefully. Other than, you pretty much have that in North Korea, but, God forbid we have that anywhere else. Certainly don't want that here or really anywhere, because that's just it. It's a worldwide threat. And it brings out the point that, the whole thing with the war always being on, well, there's a reason why the war is always going on. It's because they need there to be a war to be continuous. There is no actual
Isn't that what's
aim.
Sort of going on right now? There's a continuous war right now. There's and the worst part is if you say the wrong thing, you could be blacklisted in the society and whatnot. And it's Lord.
There are actors out there in the world who want there to be constant conflict and to be all of these things happening because it serves their interests, not our interests, and that's what you have to look out for and be mindful. And this is why it drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, I'm not really into politics." Well, you kind of gotta be, because it's just out of self-defense, And I'm not talking about politics, left-wing, right-wing kind of stuff. I mean, politics in general, about how society is run and how it's created.
Well, that's sort of me. Even though I'm apolitical, I don't believe in a political party at all. I don't like I don't like parties. I give good reason. The party is a terrible party. Like,
right.
It like once you start getting into that, it becomes like we're trying to control you, and we're trying to tell you what to say or what to do, how to feel, how to act. You can't, like, at the end, skipping already to the end, but the end, he's not even allowed to say 2 + 2 = 4 if the people don't agree. If they say it's 5.
How many fingers, Winston? How many?
And he's like, I don't know what to say because I don't know how to. And he eventually gets to that point where he agrees, but even then, it's still not the end of it.
Nope. And then you were on your seat, man, when he had the rat cage on his face.
Yeah, you saw me.
And then the thing goes up, and he's like, ah!
I'm all cringing.
He's like waiting for the rats to start eating into the guy's face.
I may make horror films. I make tame horror films. I do not make things. And this, you were saying before, this is sort of like a horror film. And this is this is scarier than a lot of shit we see today.
But that's the moment that he's broken, is when he gives up Julia and says, do it to her instead of me.
Yeah, and I'm guessing she said the exact same thing.
Sure.
To them, is do it to him, not to me, and that's how they break you. Is they take the one thing that makes you and makes you happy and everything.
And then they don't have to kill you because they've destroyed your past, they've destroyed your future. And now you're whatever they want you to be, and they use you however they want to use you, and
you're just another thing to them.
So it's horrific, absolutely horrific. It's one of the most frightening and scary books and films. Really well done. With Michael Radford rewrote this and directed it, and he just did a masterful job. And
it was made in 1984.
Made in 1984.
Put
the
out.
last thing that Richard Burton ever did, and it's one of his best performances. That's not one of the most cold and chilling characters you're ever going to see in your life. It's just amazeballs. So it's really, really well done. And poor John Hurt. And they really get you because they have Susanna Hamilton, who's so pretty and she's so sweet, and you want these poor people to get by and somehow escape, but there is no escape. This system is going to destroy everyone because that's what it's about. It's not about territory.
There's no way to get away from this.
The war is not against everybody else. The war is the state against its own people. That's the thing, and it's out to break everybody.
So the war that was going on with the helicopters and the explosions
that's
and
just
everything.
Sideshow. That's just
them.
That's just to fool people into thinking that there's a conflict, an external conflict going on.
But what if, like, a group of people revolted?
They'd be destroyed.
They'd be killed.
Yeah, those are the ones that'd be killed. Right.
Right. But that would be a real war. That wouldn't be a fake war.
Right.
But nobody does that.
No, because before they can even get to that point, they're in the business of breaking everybody.
Yeah.
And that's just it. And they create a society in which not only are they breaking everybody, that there's so much paranoia that people are denouncing everybody else on the tiniest little things or even imaginable things. You know what I mean? Because they think that that's a way that they can move up.
Traitors.
You know what I mean? Or be safe.
And like in the beginning of the movie, there's like the scene with the big brother on the, and all this stuff, and people are going, traitor, traitor, and
Richard Burton's character even mentions, when he says, when did they get you? He's like, oh, they got me a long time ago. So Richard Burton his character's already been broken a long time ago and gone through the process, and now he's being utilized in a way to do that to everybody else. And it's just a self-perpetuating machine. It's horrible.
So they sort of knew this guy was...
Yeah.
This guy was doing this stuff for a while now.
They're going to be doing it to everyone. Because that's the only way a society like that can function, is if everybody is broken.
So everybody turns each other in, or denounces them. Everybody sort of, joins this thing at some point. They become like brainwashed to being.
And they're all traps. The guy that has the shop that has bits of pieces of the past that they're not allowed to have, he's selling them stuff. Well, he's working for them too because they got him. You know,
Which, I mean, the guy doesn't know. John Hurt doesn't know. Smith doesn't know because Smith goes to him and buys the stuff and then buys a room from him for $4.
and that's just it. I mean, I always kept thinking, if I had to be in that situation, I would not be buying bits of, you know what I mean? You have to like not trust anyone.
You have to understand, like, yeah, if you buy
That's
something,
such a horrible way to live, but
something from the past, how did they get this? This is basically
Right.
at this point stolen goods, which means that
it's illicit.
yeah. So if you get caught with that, you're really screwed. And on top of that, as we find out, that guy was a traitor, was the one who told on him and everything, denounced him. So he was
because the state just assumes, because they know that nobody wants this. They assume that you're going through the motions,
that you're gonna leave. You're trying to leave.
What they want to do is to break you so that you really do believe it.
Nuts, man. It's scary.
Yes, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. It's government gone wild.
So Smith works at a news place,
where he's busy erasing the past.
Where he erases the past and then writes out a new one.
Mm-hmm. Whatever he's told to do, he does it.
Yeah. So he says, there's a war against East Asia, then they write that. Or if there's a war against Eurasia, he writes that. Or whatever. No matter what the government wants to tell everybody so that they believe. Which goes to what's going on in media today. Like, this is very much like, wow. Because, like, in media today, people are just saying whatever headlines they want to say to attract people. Like, you go on Facebook, right? And there are just headlines that say, this person did this thing. And it might not even be true. It doesn't matter because people are going to believe it no matter what.
What's worse is that, he's saying, he understands that people like Smith are doing it out of fear. And he's like, it's not enough to fear Big Brother. You have to love Big Brother. And that's part of breaking you, is that you don't fear the apparatus. They make you love it.
This is why, like, when he's the 2+4 thing, 2 + 2 = 4 thing, he's telling him, basically, I don't believe you. I feel like you're lying just to make us, just to avoid pain. We need you to really see, not just. He goes, how can I see this? It's like, you don't even have to see it, basically. You have to just believe it, or whatever and stuff. And that's so hard. Such a fucked up movie, man.
It is. It's a brilliant, terrifying. And this was what was it, 1890 something? I mean, Jesus Christ!
That he thought about this. That George Orwell was like,
yes.
So this is an updated version because it's not. I mean, this doesn't feel like the 1800s. This feels like 1980 something. It really does feel like 1984. But like. Wow. I mean, it's just scary.
Yeah, it is. That's why I say read the book. The book is fucking amazeballs, and it's one of those books that for a long time nobody figured it was unfilmable, but Michael Radford stuck in and said, "Sure, I'll do it," and he did it. And he did
really well.
He hasn't done a lot of stuff, but man, oh shit, he did a great job with this film. I mean,
this is probably his best work, I'd imagine.
The setting is completely believable. You can smell it. You can taste it. It's
disgusting.
It's just horrific and hopeless and horrifying, and it is the perfect dystopia.
It's funny to pick the 80s because the 80s is sort of getting cleaned up and getting, like you've said before, like New York in the 80s got like cleaned up and got gentrified.
Yeah, it was when it was starting to change.
Yeah, so in the 80s,
London too, to an extent.
Right. So 80s was sort of a weird time to kind of do this because make these kind of things. In the 70s, they wouldn't probably have to look far to find places that look like this.
Well, and in England, remember too, at the 80s, that was right in the middle of Thatcherism, and that was like a real big thing with fighting against what was the British far right wing taking over politics there, and a lot of people fought against that. So there was this whole backstop, and of course, with Thatcherism and all the far right, was they were fighting against what they thought were socialism and communism, and That's why you've got aspects of both in this. Because when Orwell wrote this was right around the time when fascism and socialism and communism were starting to be created and were being thought of, and were in its infancy, and they were all threats to what was considered the typical way, especially in England, where it was a monarchy, and that was the way that it was run.
Right.
So yeah, it's just amazing, and I know they did. Somebody in America, and I forget when because I was a kid, but they did a TV version that was, of course, very toned down for TV.
Yeah, of course.
I remember.
You can't really do the stuff that
they
did in this.
But it was nothing like this.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, this had nudity, which was a little weird because it almost felt strange to me. Like,
it was very unsexy.
Yeah, it was unsexy, and it was like she naked the whole time, pretty much. Like, not whole time, but like when she would hang out with them, she'd be naked walking around, and I don't know. Even to this day, I don't ever feel comfortable just walking around naked, myself. So I imagine she was kind of but I think that was because they couldn't do it. They weren't really allowed.
Well, yeah, are you talking about the
naked.
characters? Or
yeah,
the actors?
the characters,
yeah.
like more so.
Yeah, no, they were like indulging in what was forbidden.
Yeah, it was forbidden. So they were enjoying just being able to be around each other naked.
That was a freedom.
Yeah, it was a freedom. But even the actors, I mean, that must have been a little strange for her to have to walk around the set all day.
I mean, that's what actors do. It's not.
I know, but still, I mean, it's very.
Especially professional actors of that era.
You have to have hopefully have a closed set, and you have to have it where
Yeah, it was a different period.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would have had a problem with that, else they just wouldn't have had taken the part.
Yeah.
But
true.
yeah, his version of it is slightly different than the Orwell one, and he's credited as co-writing it with as Orwell as well. But he's taking Orwell's foundation and then just transcribing it.
Co-write it like the script with Orwell.
Right. It's based on an Orwell.
Orwell was not alive, probably, when this guy.
No.
Yeah, it's gotta be weird to think like, you make a amazing book like this. And when you wrote it, you never knew what moving pictures was because they didn't exist yet. And then 100 years later or whatever, they make they make this movie, and it's probably exactly what he would have imagined. As I said, like the only other person I could have imagined at that time doing it would be Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah,
and Kubrick would have still done a different movie.
Yeah, he would have. But still, I would love to have seen the Stanley Kubrick version of 1984, and it was the kind of thing that he would have done too, because he liked to take novels from really good writers.
But then he also liked to make his own version of
his own versions of them, right?
Yeah, like Stephen King's, his Shining was not what Stephen King preferred or whatever. Right.
I would love to see Guillermo del Toro do a version of 1984. I think that would be fascinating. I think he would do a very good job with it. I
think he would too.
He's a very good director at world building, and you are required to build a world, even a horrific, awful, terrible world like this. The other thing that the movie this reminds me a little bit of is Dark City, where you're sort of in this encapsulated little horrible universe that you
was
can't
way
really
more
escape.
sci-fi.
Way more sci-fi.
Yeah.
But the whole dystopian feeling is in there.
I get that. And we did that for Film Freaks.
Film Freaks, yeah. Alex Proyas. So he might have been an interesting
Alex
person.
Proyas could have done a good job for this. But I believe Guillermo del Toro, maybe I said Ridley Scott, or who else is really good at like futuristic stuff? I had another name, didn't I?
I don't remember.
I know I said Stanley Kubrick, so maybe that was the other name.
Yeah, I don't know that I would trust a whole lot of Hollywood directors just because they're under pressure to make it as marketable as possible.
The director of Blade Runner 2049, Dennis Valeris or whatever. I think that's how you say his name.
Because you can't turn this into a marketable
I mean, he did Dune, the Dune movies, I believe, and those are more marketable, but that's completely different than this.
Like, I could see Hollywood trying to change it so that they escape and it's a happy ending and all this other shit.
No, hopefully not.
That's not... you can't do that with this
well,
material.
I mean, that's not the book, right? The book didn't do that. And the whole idea is... And that's the other thing.
They get broken because everybody gets broken.
The government these days do kind of try to get involved with film stuff too now. Try to make sure that films don't show them in a bad light. You know, that's why a lot of movies about the government these days kind of don't go that route or whatever. You know, I feel like
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it happens a lot in Hollywood now. You know, Barack Obama produced something. You know, these days.
I don't really pay attention to Hollywood, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I've given up on them 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
When you look at a movie like Contagion, which was you know, Matt Damon or whatever, but that was about exactly what happened to us later on in life. It's weird. It's weird. We exactly down to the C word.
Well, they've been predicting this kind of shit for a long time because of, you know, climate change and for other reasons that it was sooner or later it was bound to happen. I mean, it has been happening with other diseases.
Yeah,
We're
with
talking
other
about
diseases,
COVID.
yeah.
It's just that it was bound to happen with that kind of a disease.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, it's just, I don't know. This is what I'm saying, though. People have to pay attention, and you know, you can't just do nothing but exist and be entertained. You have to have some responsibility as a citizen of this country, and
you gotta know kind of what's going on.
Yeah,
at least.
Enough to at least responsibly vote. You don't have to love it. Unfortunately, we're in a system where you have to participate in some form or another, because if you don't, then you're simply allowing other people to control your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you see what happens. This is a perfect example of when government goes completely crazy and people have allowed themselves to be run like this. And we don't want that.
We don't want that.
No.
We want a, you know, we don't want a dictator. You know, we don't want somebody like that.
We're going to have disagreements, but we have to be able to come together and discuss them and work them out.
Yeah, we want to be able to have control of. And the other thing I really liked about this, and that goes to it, but like, is control of our thoughts. You know, we have to have control of our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely think like that's the biggest thing with this movie is that, like, you know, anytime you get a thought or whatever and you at least express it to someone else, you can be turned into the thought police. And I'm like, you know, like I would not like to live in a world where I can at least have my dreams and my thoughts and my memories and all these things. They don't want any of that because you're not supposed to have your past. Your past before the party is completely
right.
Is
it's
non-existent.
Yeah.
You know, there was no history.
The lie becomes the truth, and then it becomes the lie again.
No.
And so on it goes.
I like the beginning where it said, if you control your past, you control your future, or something. If you control your present, you know, like something like that. And it was well written how it was out, and I was like, holy shit, there's some deep shit with this stuff because it's pretty much telling you in the first 2 seconds of the movie while the stuff is going on that it's basically, you know, now we all have the power to control our present. If we, you know, and now control our past.
That's why I love a movie like this, even though it's bleak. You know, it's not just surface level entertainment and that's it. This is a movie that makes you think, and it forces you to think, and it forces you to, you know, have some very uncomfortable considerations about what might happen or what did happen or what could happen, and you have to be conscious of that. And, you know, it's not just entertainment for entertainment's sake.
I mean, I understand you're saying, like, before that you wouldn't want Hollywood to change it to give it a happy ending. Mm-hmm. But what I would have liked to have seen, which I thought was going to go that route, I thought her and the dude were going to start a military group of people who were, you know, and then start to rise above the government and try to overtake it. And I thought that would have been cool. Like, that would have been neat. It would have been a different movie, and it would have been a different feeling. But I still would have liked that.
Oh, sure.
And that would have been a more happier ending, even if they got killed in the middle of doing everything like that.
That would have been hope. Yeah. But there is no hope in 1984. That's the thing. It destroys hope. That's why they're breaking people, is to get rid of hope.
So maybe somebody can make something that's not 1984, not call it 1984, and do it.
I'm sure that's really what Terminator series was supposed to be about originally.
What, just being able to change your past or
in the
you're
future,
in the
yeah,
future
and have hope.
and have hope.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. The first Terminator, man, even though by the end of it there was a little hope, I mean, it wasn't. That one was pretty bleak.
Oh yeah.
The second.
Well,
movie had
and
a little bit
it
more
was the
hope.
one that was supposed to come out was even bleaker, but yeah,
Oh,
unfortunately.
you mean like they were supposed to die or
Yeah,
something?
there was supposed to be another Terminator one that was focusing on the wars themselves,
Oh.
and unfortunately, when the script got written, it was considered too dark, and so they got nixed, which is unfortunate.
Unfortunately, I kind of like the one that
I would like to have seen that. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah, they should have shot 2 different versions, maybe, or something, or like shot like a different ending.
It's a franchise. Maybe someday someone will do it.
I don't know.
It needs to be explored.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they'd ever do that because that's still dark, and nowadays more movies are trying to be lighter because we live in such a dark, bleak society right now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in the 70s they thought it was a dark, bleak society. In the 50s they thought it was a dark. You know what I mean? It's always going to be like that. There's never a time when everyone's like, oh, this is a perfect time we're living in. Yay, aren't we wonderful? You know, whatever period we have, everybody's miserable and fearful and concerned about what's going on.
Paranoia.
Yeah.
You know, once again, that goes a lot right now to the fact that we get our news 24 hours and we can, you know what I mean? We can see sort of all the nastiness that is going on in the, you know, regular life, you know, that we normally wouldn't get in 1984,
that plus we're also getting 10,000 channels of mindless entertainment and fluff and garbage that also wouldn't have been going on all the time. So most people just don't even bother looking at the news. I know people who don't look at it at all. Yeah, they don't even bother.
They don't even want to see it because it just gets them more depressed.
Don't even watch TV. All they do is watch YouTube influencers.
Or or listen to podcasts or whatever instead of that, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not telling anybody how to live their life. I'm just saying that I feel like we got to be careful what we consume.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that is what this movie's about. In a way, is just like you know.
You see me. I post a lot of stuff on Facebook, and
a lot of political stuff.
A lot of political stuff, but not just that, but just stuff that's going on. Mm-hmm. Not because I support it or am against it. I let people figure that out for themselves. But I put it out there so people see what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I don't do that, but I don't do it just because I put that out there. I have 20 people saying blah, blah, and I'm just like, I can't deal with that crap. It's just too much. I mean, there's hate on both sides of everything, you know, on all sides. And I just like, I don't want, I just
but,
don't.
Know, it's like, you know, the thing where Pakistan has bombed Iraq or bombed Iran. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
People should know about that, you know. And then Israel bombs another place. You know, we have responsibility. We got attacked by Iran, and
but then don't you have people on the comments like telling you like, oh, you know, which side are you on? Are you on this side?
Well, I don't care about comments. I never read them. I just post shit. I don't care what anybody comments.
I think sometimes you read them because sometimes you reply
every now and
and
again.
tell them to fuck off.
It depends on who it is.
Like, but here's the thing.
See, you
like,
can't even do that because Facebook will put you in jail. I've already been in enough Facebook jail.
Well, you posted nudity from Bai Ling.
Yeah. Well.
But
God forbid.
God forbid she sends you.
You see a Bai Ling boob.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Hey,
you didn't even see that.
We should all be so lucky.
You didn't even see that.
We should all be so lucky. I don't understand.
It was like a skimpy costume. That's all it was.
I don't know. Anyway, to go back to this movie, which I think, but see that this movie opens up really good discussions and shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think more people, if you haven't seen 1984, well, we did spoil some stuff, so that's your fault. But,
but trust me, talking about it's one thing. You got to see it.
You got to see it to believe it. It is.
The rat scene especially is so
cringy.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Not cringy in like that was gross kind of way, kind of cringy like I can't believe.
Tension. The tension is way up there, and the way he's just so calmly explaining what's going to happen.
Yeah. That scene must have been hard to do, period, for somebody, because like I mean, it must have also been fun for what's the actor? Richard Burton. Richard Burton.
Sure.
Because he gets to play this character who's just absolutely evil. Like, even though he thinks he's absolutely right and thinks, because if you look at like Hitler was evil, evil man. You know, and the Big Brother
but
has a
according
mustache
to him.
kind of. But like, yeah, but like you can't. You know, Hitler. If you look at what Hitler tried to do, you know, and all the things that he was doing, he thought he was right. He thought he was doing the right thing. He thought what he was doing was going to save the world, and that's what these guys think. They think that what they're doing right now is going to change the world, is going to save it.
That's why they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
But you can see how there are different bits and pieces that other movies and shows and things have taken. Like in Star Trek Next Generation, there's an episode where Picard gets taken by the Cardassians and tortured.
The Kardashians?
Yeah. And
wait, Kim Kardashian was in
No, this was before those idiots came to power. And he's tortured by it's David, not David Wells. It's I forget who it was, but David Warner.
David Warner,
who's fantastic, and he plays almost the same role and tortures him and says, "How many lights do you see?" And Picard's like, "There are 4 lights," and he gets tortured.
Oh, so that was a
sort of a throwback to that.
Yeah,
and then finally, when they don't break Picard and they're taking him away to let him go, he turns around and goes, "There are 4 lights!" And he's like throws it back at him. It was a great scene.
No.
You know, it's like the scene you wanted to see poor John Hurt do, but he doesn't do it.
He doesn't do it because he just can't do it.
The other thing is, of course, is the remake of Wicker Man, which was a ridiculous movie, but where
the bees,
right, where he put the thing on oh no, not the bees, and it's just terrible. But that was badly done. But in this case, where they put the cage on with the rats, that was fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah, that was terrifying.
That was.
But
horrific.
It wasn't bees; it was rats.
Right.
And I think that was even. In a way, and the fact that he described it like they're going to come in there, going to bite your eyes, and they're going to take your skin off and all this shit. And the whole time, I'm just like, oh man,
Are they going to go there?
Oh
God,
is he going to do it? And then he just yells out, "Do it to Julia, not me. Do it to Julia," and just completely turns on her. And at the end, you see him playing chess by himself. You can see he's completely broken. He just almost looks like he's just insane, and
they
meet, and she pretty much says, "I did the same thing, I turned on you."
And whatever they had between them is gone, completely gone.
They're now brother and sister again, which, I mean, that's what they're supposed to be called, right? Like throughout it is like they call themselves, hey brother, hey sister. Right.
Well, you know why? Because brothers and sisters are not allowed to marry and procreate.
They're not allowed to fuck and all this other shit. And they do that in the movie because they go against what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. They're trying to break every possible affiliation you have except with the party.
Right.
That's all they want.
Yeah. I mean, and then what we saw, because his job was to like erase people's past, I guess, or whatever. And so we find that one guy, his friend, and everything, he erased his past, right? And then later he sees him in the prison, and the guy's like room 101, and he was like, "Not me, take him."
Right.
Like he's the big traitor, I'm not.
He's the thought criminal.
He's the thought criminal. Which that was interesting. So there's one other scene with this woman asks Smith to come do her plumbing or whatever, which was weird, but her husband was out of town, I guess, or whatever, and so she needed him to come do that, so he went to do it. I don't know, did he get paid extra for that? I mean,
probably not.
What was
I guess he was doing it as a favor.
Okay, whatever. And then so the guy, what is it, or then the little kid says, you're a thought criminal. Yeah. And I was like, how does he know that? Like, did he just guess by looking at him?
Probably either that, or they're trained to just do that. To just find somebody. And...
As a kid?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's how they get you.
They start you young.
They start you young. They get you indoctrinated.
And the guy wasn't started young because he was pre-party.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So he had those thoughts.
That's why you don't have to break children, because they don't have a past to erase. They've already been brought up that way.
They're already part of the party.
Right.
You know, and stuff. So they don't have to. So when they grow up, no matter what, they're just going to be part of that. So
Parsons' own, he's turned in by his own kid to break him.
That's so messed up.
It's fucked up, man.
I know, it's all fucked up.
Yeah, but it's amazing story. It's an amazing movie. It's really, really well done. But yeah, it is not a gaggle of giggles. Trust me.
No, I mean, if anything, what I really think about this movie is it just sort of has this way to make you think, or whatever about what and don't worry, there is no thought police, so you can very much think it right now. Now, if there ever becomes a thought police, that's scary, because I have thoughts. I have ADHD. I have thoughts every 2 seconds. So, I probably had like 5 thoughts already throughout this thing. I can't help it. So I can't be, the thought police can't come in and take me down or whatever. But if there ever becomes that, it's terrifying.
But it doesn't matter, because everybody gets a turn. Everybody gets broken. So if they haven't broken you yet, you're on the list. And
so all right. So do you think you'd be broken?
I'm sure everybody does. Everybody would be.
So what would be your fear?
Probably something to do with heights.
Oh shit, falling. That's right. They would have you like up in the high thing, and oh my goodness. Government is watching now if they ever decide to do that. Oh, Big Brother.
I mean, there are other fears too, but that's probably the worst.
So we were talking about this earlier before the podcast, but what is it? Big Brother didn't exist. Like the lines of Big Brother didn't exist. Came from 1984. So anytime anybody mentions, "Oh, Big Brother is watching you" and all this other stuff, it's from 1984. I did not know that. I was not aware. I didn't know anything about this. I never read it as a kid.
Should.
I should have.
That and Brave New World are two just amazing. The two best dystopian novels of
I did read Fahrenheit 451.
That's a good one too.
I think I read that years ago, but I don't remember
Ray Bradbury.
I don't remember any of it. I do remember that I was supposed to read it, so I don't know if
I love dystopian novels.
Yeah.
Handmaid's Tale's good too. Margaret Atwood. They
did you
turned
ever
that
watch
into a series.
The series?
I never did, because I could never get it, but I've heard it's really good.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't have Hulu, do you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
But I have the book. The book was really good.
Yeah, I've got to check out Handmaid's Tale. You said later, stuff like Hunger Games kind of took the idea of this dystopian,
and used it for like, teeny popper kind of stuff.
Yeah, fluff.
The other one that they did was it was on Google Plus, and it was the one where what happens if the Germans and Japanese won the war. I forget the name of it. Oh, Man in the High Castle.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
That was really good too. I recommend that one. So that's another dystopian kind of. Okay. It's kind of a mix of a semi-historical and dystopian thing, and that was well done too. Yeah. A little bit of sci-fi in there too.
Yeah, this was really good. Like, I mean, not that I didn't think it would be. First of all, it's Criterion, which I did not know that this was a Criterion film originally. I did not know that they had already had this out. By the way, so it's got director approved Blu-ray special features. One is it's a new 4K digital restoration supervised by cinematographer Roger Deakins. Oh man! So Deakins is very big with working with Tarantino now and stuff like that. But man, he did such a great job on this movie. Like, he was incredible.
All the production elements in this are just amazing.
Yeah,
fabulous.
2 scores, one by Eurythmics and one by composer Dominic Muldowney. New interviews with director Michael Radford and Deakins. New interview with David Ryan, author of George Orwell on Screen. Behind the scenes footage, trailer, and it has an essay that you were looking at earlier in essay thing, the little fold out one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Big Brother is watching you. So that's where this all came from, you know. That's
Ingsoc, baby.
What?
Ingsoc.
But yeah, there's...
Which is English socialism, I think is what that stands for.
So the guy that worked at the place or whatever, worked at the store, you know? That was...
Cyril Cusack?
Yeah, that was Cyril Cusack.
Yeah.
Is that John Cusack's grandfather
something
or something?
like that. Yeah, they're all one big family.
I was like, because, okay, first of all, by the way, it was John Hurt. I think I heard him, and I thought he said John Hurd. So I was like, 2 John Hurd movies. But no, John Hurt.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Very different.
I think John Hurd would not have done the same role.
I mean,
you know,
John Hurt's a good actor.
He's a good comedic
But
actor.
he's not John Hurt. John Hurt was
He's
one
more of a comedic
of
actor.
our finest and greatest actors of all time.
But yeah, look at this. All of this. Oh, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely worth it. I'm definitely going to be picking it up this year. I pick up every movie we do for Criterion Watch now because, you know, so I got to get Dead Man in this. But these are definitely ones up there. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just a crazy...
And do yourself a favor. Read the book. The book is amazing.
I gotta check that out.
Especially if you're a writer, you're going to pick up a lot of good stuff there. You know, for characters and just, you know, just the way, the bleak writing style. You know, tell you what, man, this would make a very interesting series.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like Walking Dead in that.
Actually, I don't know if I can watch a whole series like this.
That's just it. Walking Dead got to a point where it was so bleak, people dropped off. But I could see that in this kind of a world, though.
I don't know, though. Because I think, like, what would happen?
You would have to be invested with people who were trying to change
right.
this thing.
But then nothing changes.
Well, yeah, that's just it. You'd have to... there's your Hollywood thing where you get somebody fighting against the system and maybe marginally being successful against it.
Maybe,
you know?
but like you said, you'd hate that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, if it were a movie, yes. If it is a series based on the world where you're riffing off of the novel, I think you could do that. You're not saying it's 1984, but what you're saying is this is, you know, something set in that world, and we're not necessarily giving it a happy ending, but you're at least giving it a hopeful. You know, it's giving it some hope. I can see that. I that would be a very interesting.
Because by the end of it,
series.
yeah, there is no hope. There's no hope here. There's all of it is just this painful, scary thought that
and that's really what it comes down to is what he talks about is you know, when John Hurt's trying to describe that part of humanity that would fight against this no matter what, and Richard Burton saying, well, what is that? Where's the evidence for that? That doesn't really exist. That's 2 different ways of looking at the world. In 1984, Richard Burton's side wins. But if you were to do this as an extended series, you could have it so that John Hurt's side wins. And we don't know exactly what it is about humans, but the fact is that we don't really have this, other than, say, North Korea. This hasn't come to pass yet. Not to say that it can't happen, and there are certain people who would love to see it happen, but for the most part, it hasn't happened, and those times where it has happened, it's been temporary. So there is something about humanity that fights against that. So I could see a series where you're fighting against it. You don't necessarily have to win, but just to fight enough is enough to show that there's a human spirit still out there.
So yeah, MGM put this out. Like, is MGM still around? I mean, I know they have MGM Plus, and I know all that stuff. I think so. So if MGM wants to do MGM Plus original series of 1984, I would definitely
well,
say
and the
that
thing
would
is,
be great.
I don't know who has. I guess George Orwell's estate has the rights, but I don't know. They have the rights probably to the novel. Well, that doesn't mean that they have the rights to
the film.
The film, and then you would be doing something different. So if you had a series, I don't know that there are rights to a series. So I don't know.
I don't know.
It's worth exploring. I think somebody.
You'd have to get a lawyer to figure that out.
Yeah, you'd need an entertainment lawyer who specialized in that kind of thing. But it could be done. I think the world is very, very rich. Even though it's horrific, you could really do some interesting stuff with that. You know, especially if you wrote it from a dark city point of view, where everybody thinks that what's going on is the reality, and then you've got people who discover, no, that's not the reality. This is the reality that we've been fed, and now we're finding out it's different. And then, you know what I mean? And they try to go through it a little bit like Logan's Run. I don't know if you ever saw the original Logan's Run.
No, actually, I haven't.
Yeah, I have that. We should do that for Film Freaks because it's really good.
I know I've seen the and there was a remake, I think.
There was, yeah. You don't want to.
Yeah,
No. It's one of the very few made-for-TV movies that was really good. You know, it was back when they used to do a good job with that, like Salem's Lot and some other stuff. But yeah, we'll do that for Film Freaks someday. But I don't know. I think that there's room for it. It's a rich world. That's why I recommend everybody to read it because it's so well done. But at the very least, check out the film. It's you know, in your Criterion place, whenever they have the Criterion sale, trust me, it's worth picking up.
Yeah, so Barnes & Noble, 50% off. If you see it in your local Barnes & Noble, definitely pick it up. I don't know if I'll get it from eBay or if I'll get it from Barnes & Noble when I'll get it, but I'm definitely...
shame we didn't have Jolene. She loves this. She loves novels.
She's going to be so upset.
And she's going to be irritated.
Every single time you're like, oh, we just did this. And she'd be like, she's like, I love that stuff.
I know,
blah, blah, blah. And you're like...
She loves literature.
But,
so.
I mean, we can only do this...
And she's never seen it. So, at some point,
yeah, you have to show it to her. Maybe bring it to one of your... party nights, you know, where you guys watch movies or whatever.
There's a way to enjoy the party. Woohoo! Fun and balloons, baby.
Fun and balloons. Fun in balloon land.
There you go.
But anyway, yeah, this is not a party movie.
No.
So if you're planning to hang out with some people, just understand it's gonna get deeply dark.
This clears the party out.
I don't know. This will definitely bring the tone down.
Mm-hmm. But it's a great movie.
But yeah, it's bleak. It's scary. It's I don't know, it's a good movie. Like
Gritty.
It's really well done, and written well, and directed well, produced well,
acted well, everything.
Cinematography well, editing well, everything. There was editing choices by I think that editor's Tom Priestley. Such a great job. Where it's just like there were shots, and then like the edit would and then sometimes there'd be like these little dissolves that'd just be like, what in the world, And I was just like, man, this is just a really well done movie.
Especially when he's, doing his flashbacks or his memories, and sometimes he's trying to use them as armor against being tortured, and God, you just feel so bad for John Hurt's character.
The whole time there's nothing he can do, man. Mm-hmm. No matter what, he's gonna have to give in.
Everybody gets broken. That's why torture is still popular, even though it's not a reliable way of extracting information, because people will tell you anything to make it stop, whether it's real or not.
Whether it's what they really believe or what is actually happening, they'll tell you just because they just wanted to stop.
Right, and that's the thing, is that torture, it's not there to get you information, it's there to make people suffer.
But that's what they wanted.
Right.
They wanted them to say whatever they wanted them to say. So if they wanted them to say 2 + 2 = 5, then it equals 5.
And sometimes it's 3.
Sometimes it's 3.
Sometimes it's both.
Yeah, sometimes it's whatever they want you to say.
Right.
And if you disagree with them or try to change that, then you are, my only problem with it is, didn't they declare him as a person without a past or something? So is that everybody? It becomes a person without a past at some point?
And then now that you no longer have a past, they simply take you, pluck you, and put you wherever they want you now.
So why was he, at the end, he's playing chess by himself?
Because he's just waiting to be reassigned to wherever they're going to stick him. They might stick him up in the front. They might stick him in the back somewhere. But now they know that he's not...
One of them.
Right. And
One of them.
Right.
One of them.
And he's not going to, look at the past or have any problems with that. Now he's a useful piece to them. So they'll put him wherever they need. Wherever there's a need. This is
a harsh movie, man.
It is. Because in a way, it's easier to just be killed.
Yeah.
I'd rather be killed in a movie like that than to be broken. And that's the worst evil of all. Not just to be killed, because anybody can kill you, but to be broken and to be turned into a tool for that
Basically,
society.
your brain turned to mush.
Oh, it's awful.
And stuff. And just you're just agreeing with them. You're now just a...
better off dead.
Yeah, you're just a... which was a Cusack movie.
Yeah.
But which is... what is it? You're just a drone, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're just another cog into their,
It's kind of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Good movie.
Where
I thought about that for Film Freaks.
Where he's like, even though he's an outrageous pain in the ass, you got to love Jack Nicholson's character. And then at the end, after they break him and he goes through electroshock therapy and he's, more of a behaving person, and he just like sits there and drools. I mean, he's dead. He's better off dead. They've destroyed him. They haven't killed him, but they've destroyed him.
He might as well be dead. Yeah, and this guy might as well be dead.
Mm-hmm.
John Hurt's character, Smith, and that's what you said, like, Smith is just an everyday man.
He's the everyman.
He's just the person who's just doing his job, and then he thinks, man, wouldn't it be nice to have sex with this hot chick that, like, works with me? And then just all that just makes it just...
It's a trap.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's going down this rabbit hole he shouldn't have gone down, and he gets caught. And that, by the way, that scene where they get caught, man, that was rough, because they like said, hey, blah, 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 and they go, we've been caught. And the thing pulls up, and you see that lady, that annoying lady.
She gets punched in the stomach.
Oh, God, yeah.
Awful.
She got punched in the stomach. I thought they were going to punch him, but they didn't. And I was like, because I guess they didn't have to lift him over their, thing. Like, it was rough.
But everybody involved in that was broken at some point.
Yeah.
And then reused.
Just to think about that, yeah. Every one of them had to go through the same process that they're going through.
Yep.
And nobody cares, because they've all gone through it.
And it's like a machine.
Yeah.
It's an unthinking, unfeeling machine, and everybody gets a turn.
Rage against the machine.
That's right, baby. Fight the power.
When I was watching this, I was like, this is absolutely, I can tell this is a Paul movie. Like, even if I was watching this by myself, I'd go, I know Paul would have loved this movie.
Oh,
because
yeah.
This is just absolutely everything that Paul believes,
Yep. Fantasy of fighting against the power. That's what I love.
Yeah, that's why he created Indie Film Cafe.
Even if it's a hopeless fight, it's still a fight.
Yeah. I mean, even you say today, like, if you're going to make an indie film, you're not going to make it, the indie film that, like, everybody else is going to make. You're going to make it the weird fucking movie that you want, or the really, really good movie that you don't see people making these days.
Right,
or whatever.
right. Why make somebody else's movie, man? You got to make your own.
Isn't that a line in Ed Wood? Like, why else spend your life making somebody else's dream?
Perfect.
Yeah. So kind of a perfect way to kind of finish this off, because, so that was amazing.
If what's his name were still alive, not Orwell, I keep thinking Orwell, Orson Welles, he would have loved this movie.
Was he not alive in 1984? When did he die?
I thought it was earlier 80s, but I don't remember.
He might have seen this movie.
He might have, but I don't.
But
think
he
so.
didn't. He wouldn't have directed it, because he was too old at that time, or he was starting to kind of. But
no, he would love to have, but no.
And he would have done a good job.
Like I said, for a long time, this was one of those movies that was considered unfilmable. So.
Oh, you know who else would be great, but they already did something similar to this, is Terry Gilliam, who did Brazil, which you said was very similar in a way. But
I like Gilliam. I think he has a penchant for kind of going off the deep end and going a little.
Stranger.
He can't contain himself. He has to do something a little odd and a little weird and a little strange, and because that's just the way he's built.
Brazil was really weird and really strange.
I mean, I still like it. It's just, I think he would make it. I think Brazil is more his style.
I think Brazil is his 1984
it
movie.
is.
Yeah. So it's
an interesting companion piece, and like I said, around the same period. So
there you go. Okay, yeah, you're right. He's already done this movie.
Like The Day After was there. That was the early '80s as well. That's what would happen if there was a nuclear strike in England. That was a pretty damn terrifying movie.
The Day After, and then there's The Day After Tomorrow, which is a completely different movie.
So yeah, that period in the '80s when, during the height of the Reagan era, when everybody was still terrified of a real nuclear war with Russia, and there was all kinds of shit going on, and paranoia was very high, and that produced a lot of very interesting dystopian type stories for the media out there, for film and for books and for TV. So it was very interesting.
Well, we kind of live in a terrible time for cinema in that fact that nobody wants to do a movie like this. Well, they would probably do 1984 because it is a very well-known book and established as a. That's the thing. Like what Hollywood does nowadays is they make sure that there's already an audience for their stuff.
The problem is there's not enough of an audience. They want something that they can
Hunger
bank.
Games.
That people are going to walk in and they're going to make their $150 million back immediately. That's really what they want.
So if they republished 1984, put that back out and got some interest in it, maybe they could find out if.
Well, and remember too, this was filmed at the same time as when 1984 was actually happening. So there was a big buzz about, this was the book written way back then, and now we're actually at a period where some of this is happening, and so there was a lot of interest in the novel again because of that, and that's probably one of the reasons why the movie got made in the first place.
Then that's why, because a lot of this stuff is sort of happening now a little bit.
Yeah.
So this would be like an interest in that.
Absolutely.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it could be made today. I kind of agree with your idea of a TV show. I think that
I would love it.
I would be down with that.
At least set in that world.
Does it say when the book was written? Like,
I don't remember.
I don't know. Anyway, because the 100 and something years anniversary would be an interesting time.
People don't remember that Orwell and Jules Verne and some of these early sci-fi writers were very prophetic. They had a lot of interesting stuff that, you come back, 50, 60, 70, 100 years later, like, holy shit, this guy wrote about that back then. It's very interesting.
Yep, and it's still going on today. Yep. Probably even worse than what's going on. Because, we should be in a better time because we have technology.
We kind of are, but we kind of aren't. So a lot of the same base problems still remain.
Right.
While a lot of other things have changed, some for the better, some for not. The biggest disappointment to me is the internet. The fact that, I was brought up in a world before internet was the real thing, when it was just a bunch of scientists who had it. And as it was emerging, the way it was brought out was like, this is the way that's going to change society for the better because everybody's going to have all this information. It's going to be the information age. Well, instead, it turned out into the disinformation age, and everybody's
not all. There's some real information out there, but now you have to get through the disinformation to find the actual information.
It's been hijacked by corporations and people with selfish intent.
And you don't know what to believe. You can only believe what you believe.
Well, you can find the truth, but you have to work for it. You have to dig. You have to, use your head.
But like I said, you have to believe what you believe, and that is what you have to listen to. Whether or not that's the truth, we don't know. Because so much disinformation is out there. So.
Sure. Well, you have to get as much data and be open to facts, and then base your opinion upon those facts. You know what I mean?
That's what they did in this movie.
Yeah.
In a way, he started to piece things together and other stuff and kind of make up his own.
And that's why I think that this material's ripe for a reboot, or at least a reimagining, where you are approaching modern internet and modern media and modern social media and all that stuff. Where you can utilize that, because that was something that George Orwell did not conceive of, but you could fit into this world as being a tool for the government or as a tool for whatever the party. And you could do a lot of interesting things with this material. I think it would be very useful or very interesting.
I say actually 2025 would be perfect because it would be after an election year, and it could be sort of a political statement in a way.
Well, it's going to take some thought and some writing. It might be a little quick.
That's what people do these days. They put things
What's
out
the
like that.
what's the 1984? I don't know. What would be 50 years later? Would be 30, 34? I don't know.
2034?
Math is hard.
2034.
There you go. Something like that.
Well, didn't he say something about, like, in the year 2050, like, things were going to be blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, 2050? We haven't even gotten there yet.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, they're thinking about the way future.
But that's, something like that. Like 2050, I could see setting it then. That would be very interesting.
Yeah, that would be. So somebody make a TV show called 2050.
And again, instead of being sci-fi with flying cars and spaceships, it's more like 1984. You know what I mean? Where it's a horrible dystopian world and that people are trying to break out of it. Yeah. That would be very interesting. I would watch that.
Yeah, well, what was it? Blade Runner was 2049.
Yes.
Yes. And stuff. So that's close to 2050. So there you go. All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up. Yep. Go buy the movie.
Good movie.
Next month it'll be my choice. I have no idea what I'm picking yet. So, and we're doing this thing where we're just not telling each other.
I was gonna do M, but I couldn't find it, so maybe that'll be my next one. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you want to do M, and you wanted to do the Western one.
The
John Ford one.
My Darling Clementine.
My Darling Clementine.
Yeah.
So you got a few choices.
Breakout. I've been wanting to do that one.
And I mean, you've got other ones we haven't done yet, right?
Sure.
On Criterion. So there you go. I've got a huge collection. So I would honestly, if I didn't need to get anything else this year, I but you know me, I'm gonna pick up at least 10 more this year, if not more. Yeah, hoping 20, so 10 in each, whatever. But we'll see. We'll see what we do. So join us next month where it'll be my episode, and I once again have no idea, and I've not been telling Paul, and Paul has not been telling me what we're watching
till the day we show up.
Till the day we show up. So it could be something I was planning on doing, for his, or it could be something he was planning to do for me. It won't matter because we'll end up doing it.
Yep.
So there you go. All right, everybody. Join us next week.
Bye.
In here. Jesus. Wait, is it? Can we go a little over here? Because I just don't want to see. Okay. Let's go. Can we go down? Because. Alright, is that good?